Good evening. I'm Dr. O'Sullivan. I'm the principal of Penfield Middle School, and I'd like to welcome everyone to this evening's Rising Ninth Grade, current 8th grade course selection. We do have a panelist with us of guidance counselors and administrators across the 3 buildings. So we're just going to go around and introduce ourselves before we kick off the program. So we'll start with Penbrook and Dr. Jenkins and her team.
Good evening, parents. I'm Dr. Jenkins. I'm principal at Pembroke Middle School, and we have our guidance counselor, Ms. Katacheski, joining us tonight for our presentation. We look forward to speaking with you and learning more.
Yes, I'm Tara Katacheski. Hello to all the parents, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm Stephen Moeller, principal at Pendale Middle School, and I'm here with Mr. Flynn and Miss Wagner, 2 of our counselors at Pendale Middle School.
And again, I'm Dr. O'Sullivan. I'm from Penfield, and I'll let my guidance counselor introduce themselves.
Good evening. My name is Amy Sinkinson, guidance counselor for 8th graders, soon to be rising 9th graders at Penfield Middle School.
Thank you. So for this evening, we've set aside about 40 minutes to talk to you about the course selection process. Now, during this time, we do have a presentation that our guidance counselors are going to share with the families. And then after that, we're going to be opening it up for questions. We do ask this. We know that there is a raise hand function on this, but that gets a little confusing. So if you do have questions, there's a Q&A tab that's there. If you want to type your question into that during the Q&A portion, we will either answer your question live, or one of us, we might see the question in there and answer it in the chat feature. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our guidance counselors, and I'm going to share the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. O'Sullivan. This is again Amy Sinkinson. I am the 8th grade guidance counselor at Penfield Middle School. We're going to go ahead and begin our presentation tonight. I'm going to start off with just some basic information of what kind of changes going into our 9th grade. So we can go ahead to the next slide. All right, a few things for everybody to understand. So as we transition into 9th grade next year, 9th grade is all about credits, moving into that idea of 9th grade and looking at the idea of credits. Could we go back one slide if you don't mind, Dr. O'Sullivan? No worries. So I just want to make sure that we are aware of kind of what this means. Every class in 9th grade will have a credit amount attached to it. And when we're looking at what it means to graduate from North Penn High School with that North Penn High School diploma, every student must have a minimum of 23 credits. In the table to the right with the yellow highlighted information, we're looking at the credits that are required for each student to graduate. So for instance, English needs 4 credits, which means students would be taking English in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Each class would be worth 1 credit. Social studies would be the same. Moving down to math and science, students are absolutely able to take 4 years of math and science, or they have the option, and this is to the left of the table, the note, the credit requirement is a total of 7 credits, which means students could take 3 years of math or 3 years of science, and then 4 years of math and 3 years of science. It's kind of that idea of bouncing back and forth. So you could do, again, let me repeat that because I was a little bit wordy there. Students could take 3 years of math, grades 9, 10, 11, and not take a math their senior year, which means then they would be taking 4 years of science. That would mean they would take it 9, 10, 11, and 12. Or they could flip-flop that, and they could do 3 years of science and 4 years of math. It really depends. They do have the option of taking all 4 years of both. If you continue down the list, you can see that we have our arts and humanities, our health, and our phys ed education classes. Students are required to take so many credits of those. Our health class and NPE class, just to give you an idea, are each a 0.3. All right, they need a total of 0.9 credits. And electives then mean that students have choice in what they would like to take, and they have a whole bunch of classes that they're able to choose. And of course, that spectrum gets a little bit wider as they advance through their years in the high school. Next slide, please. All right, for 9th grade, the 9th grade courses that are listed on this slide right here are required major courses and our required minor courses. So if you take a look on the left side in yellow, we have our English 9, America and History 2, Math, and physical science are the 4 courses that are required, the 4 majors that are required for students going into 9th grade. That math level is really dependent on their math placement. All right, so that is really a discussion. You know where your child is this year in math, and that will look ahead to where they will be next year. Some students may need to take reading if they're below reading level, grade level reading. And then for our English language learners, we may have some students in our ELD courses. All right. Those are all based on teacher recommendations. Our required minors, in this case, all students should be taking physical education, health 9, and then a course called career readiness. Okay, next slide. All right. A graduation requirement for students is that they take the Keystone exams. And if you look at this piece of information, this slide really just gives you more information that you may have about Keystones, particularly if you have had a child who has not taken Keystone yet. Some students have taken Algebra 1 last year. They're taking Algebra 1 this year. They may be taking Algebra 2-year course, whatever it is. Students will be taking their Algebra Keystone whenever they have completed Algebra 1. Biology is taken when they've completed their biology class. For some students, that may be 9th grade if they're in a course advancement class, or if they've taken, they've course advanced physical science. But for a majority of our students, biology will be taken in 10th grade, as well as the literature 10th grade Keystone. Okay, if you would like more information, we have the links to those websites there for your ability to just click on them and check them out, right? So I believe I'm gonna hand this over now to Ms. Wagner, who will continue with the next set of slides.
So as a 9th grade student, students are going to get to choose their electives. Just remember that the high school transcript does start in 9th grade. So it's important to pick these classes that best suit the student's interests and align with their future goals. And all right, next slide. So we just wanted to clarify the difference between choosing a major versus minor elective, because oftentimes the students get confused on how much they can pick. So they can pick a combination of either 2 elective majors or 1 major and 3 minors. Students this year who had a major elective that meets 1 block every other day, similar to math or English and those core subjects. And then the minors meet for a half a block or just 1 period of the day. And next slide. So this is a general overview of the major elective courses that the 9th graders can choose from. And if you would like to look at the detailed information about the courses and the course description, you can find the program of studies on the North Penn website under our school tab, and then North Penn High School course selection. There's a specific 9th grade program of studies. So at the middle school, we have applying technology, art major, introduction to business, FCS major, and the world languages, French, German, Latin, and Spanish. There are 2 courses that students can take through the high school. So they would start their day at North Penn High School at the high school start time, and then return back to their home building around 9:30 is when they get back this year, if they're taking 2 periods up there. And then there's also the North Monco Tech School. If the students have applied this year, that will take up 2 elective major periods. And then this is the list of our minors that we have. We have applying technology, art. The music elective students can opt to take 2 or 4 times a cycle. 2 would take the place of 1 minor, and if you take it 4 times a cycle, it would take the place of 2 minors. And we have Foundation of Music Theory, FCS, Related Fine Arts, and Technical Drawing and Design. And again, all of the course descriptions are available in the program of studies. And I'll pass it to Tara. Okay, so up until this point, we're used to in 7th and 8th grade, the 2 different levels being, 6 and 6P besides math. Now that they're in 9th grade, it's a 5.0 or a 6.0 class.
So a 5.0 is still, college career ready level class, but the 6.0, if, the teachers recommend students for that level, they must be strong, independent reader, must be highly motivated, similar to our 6P students at this point. The class is more fast paced, it covers more, it's in greater depth than the 5.0 level is. There's more there's projects, assessments, and it's a little bit more difficult and more expectations, and research extension activities are also required. Next slide. And then course descriptions and required majors and minors can be reviewed here. I know that we have sent them out, but there's a whole list of the different course selections, and we reviewed that with the students as well. We gave them the link so they could look and see what each course entails. What does art look like? What does tech major look like? And also there's a program of studies for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade as well, if they want to look ahead. But right now for 9th grade, all the students have been given that information because they want to make sure they know what the course entails before they choose it. Next slide. And also North Monco Tech School. So the tech school came and talked to all of the students about the different programs that are offered, which there's a ton. And I know that there was a tour as well, and some of you may have been able to view or go to that tour and see the different programs and talk to the teachers. And students, if they want to apply for the tech school, there's an application which are in all the guidance offices, and they're due the last week of February, no later than February 27th, to the guidance office. And it's a blue form that all the students can pick up. And on the back, there is some questions about why are you interested in this field and what are your goals in this area. And it's important to make sure that the students really answer those questions thoughtfully because it can be competitive to get into the tech school. But so that they're due February 27th. Next slide. And just some, the teachers are making their recommendations. I know that we've met with the students to talk about course selections. And like I said, the tech school applications due the 27th. And then mid-April, parents and students can view their course selections at Infinite Campus. So same as last year in their academic planner. So you can see what levels and courses the teachers recommended, and also, what your child chose for their electives. And then April 28th is the deadline for student course selection changes. So we have some time, about 2.5 months to get it right. So even if your child picked, let's say, art major, and then they decided, you know what, I want to do tech major, they would just email us, let us know, and we can make those changes. But we have till about April 28th. Next slide. And now Q&A.
All right, thank you, everyone. As we said, if you do have questions, you can post them in the Q&A tab there, and we'll just start going through some of those and answering those answering those questions. I'll be the facilitator with this and doing the best that we can answer questions. So one of the questions is, why does North Penn not offer Southeastern languages options like Hindu, Tamil, Urdu? North Penn School District harbors sizable student populations from Southeast Asian heritage, and on the population level, they are spoken. I do know, and I can, I guess, hopefully answer that to the best of our ability. I know they're looking at options. It is a process that where we do add new languages and new courses. I think we can always recommend this to our curriculum supervisors and saying what other options we'll be able to provide for students. But at least at this point, we do not, but that does not mean in the future. And I can't tell you how down the road in the future it could be that we will not offer some of these languages. So another question is, and I'm going to give this to Mr. Flynn. Actually, no, he's not there. I'm going to give it to Miss Sinkinson. Oh, you are Mr. Flynn? All right. Language arts and then band and tech minors. They can choose 4 or 5 electives in a combination of major and minors.
So if the schedule stays the same way it was this year, which we have to assume it will, students in 9th grade will have the ability to choose 2 major subjects, as Ms. Sinkinson said, that meet every day of the cycle. And then they have the ability to choose 3 minor subjects. Now, if they choose band, orchestra, or chorus as a major, that takes up 2 of those. So they'd be able to take that and then another minor. But if they chose it 2 times per cycle, then they would be able to choose band, orchestra, chorus, and then 2 other minors.
I guess on that, I mean, I'm thinking there, Ms. Sinkinson, can you describe what the schedule might look like for a student who decides to go to North Monco or might attend the high school for high school classes?
Sure. So when we talk about North Monco, there was just some questions I saw. So I think hopefully this will encompass, and then any other counselor who wants to add in, feel free. But a couple of things I think of clarification are really important. Number one, if a student goes to North Monco, and so I'm going to ask the other counselors to chime in to make sure I'm not incorrect. But if a student is attending North Monco, that takes the place of, that is their major elective. So there was a question about, can my child take Japanese and also attend North Monco? They are taking 2 majors at North Monco, so they cannot take a language. Mr. Flynn, Ms. Kadacheski, Ms. Wagner, please chime in if I'm incorrect.
You are correct.
Thank you. Just want to make sure. But when we also talk about kids who are beginning their day at the high school, so if they are taking, I think there's 2 parts to this. Let me backtrack a little bit. If they're a North Monco student and they're taking classes at North Monco as a 9th grader, they will start their day at Penfield and then be bused to North Monco, and then they will return back to us. They'll leave around, for us, it's around 10. They'll be back around noon, a little bit earlier, a little bit, sometimes on both ends, but they will be leaving and then returning. Students who attend North Monco then will continue the rest of their schedule the remainder of the day. So they will take their English, science, social studies, and math. They will also take their career readiness, PE, and health, which are their required minors. They will not have additional room in their schedule to take any other majors or minors. There was a question about course advancement or somebody who is beginning their day at the high school, and I can pull up my Q&A there just to make sure I've answered it correctly. Let me make sure I have it up. Students who are course advancing and taking math at the high school, how many minors should they choose? So kids who are course advancing and taking math at the high school, they would be starting their day taking math at the high school, and then at the high school, they would also take an additional class, which oftentimes works out to be a foreign language. All right. And then what happens is they would return their day to us, and then they would continue as if they have their additional period. So they would be taking their 2 majors, and then they would be coming back to us because their schedule would allow it to continue with minors. Okay. I'm also going to answer the question, if you don't mind. There was a question, since I'm talking about North Monco, that was the Japanese piece. There was a question about determination for North Monco. So North Monco has let us know that they will be making determinations, they hope, by early to mid-April. In past, it has been mid to late April, maybe even early May, but they have said, as of now, we're going to say mid-April because that's what they have told us. If students are not accepted to North Monco, they absolutely will be able to work with us. We have backup information. So if a student selects North Monco and doesn't get in, we will go back with them and we will make sure that their schedule is changed to reflect their backup choices so we can have them in for our own scheduling. Okay, any counselors want to add anything? If I missed anything, feel free.
I just want to say that, this is speaking solely for Penndale, but at Penndale, the student will make their choices for next year based on the fact that they're not going to get into North Monco. So in other words, if they don't get accepted, they already chose their classes for next year, and that'll be their classes moving forward. Now, as Ms. Sinkinson said, if North Monco gets us that information before the middle of April, we still have until April 28th to make changes if that were the case. But any class they wanted to take, they should already have in, because we don't make the assumption they're going to get into North Monco. We wait until they're accepted to put North Monco in.
Thank you. So the next question, and we'll throw this to Ms. Wagner. The question is this: are the majors selected in 9th grade continued into later grades, or can these change?
So selecting a course in 9th grade, no, it does not. You aren't signing up for the commitment to continue the courses after that, such as a world language. You don't have to go into the next year of that world language. Same with art or anything like that. No, you're not committed and locked into those courses. But it is important to elect courses that you do think are going to be in line with what your future coursework looks like.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Kay, I see that you would like to answer the next question. The question is a student able to take biology and My bad, I muted myself. So Ms. Kay, there, the question is a student able to take biology in ninth grade? And if possible, what are the prerequisites and requirements to do that? Now I'll mute myself.
I can hop in and answer that while Mrs. Kadczewski's
All right,
trying
sorry.
to unmute. Go ahead.
All right, yes, thank you. So yes, if your child wants to take biology, physical science 9 is what they take in ninth grade. So they could do what's called course advancement. And that means that they would take a course over the summer. There was information that was sent out about that, and there was a course advancement night. So if your child wanted to do course advancement, it starts at the end of May and then it ends at the end of July. And for science, they have, like I said, it's pretty rigorous. It's an online course. It's asynchronous, so it's not live. So they take the course on their own time. And then they can course advance for physical science, and they have to have an 85 in order to pass that. And then if they receive that grade, then they could take biology in ninth grade, and that would mean that they would go to the high school to take that.
Can I add something to that real quick, Tara, please? Just for saying sake, if you're thinking about that, you should have a conversation with your school counselor, because if you take biology in ninth grade, you have to take chemistry in 10th grade, and there's a prerequisite for math in order to take the chemistry in 10th grade. So I would have a conversation with your school counselor just to make sure you're on the right track as far as that's concerned.
Thank you. And then we'll throw this one out there. And if anybody wants to answer it, any counselor, what will the schedule look like for a ninth grader who has course advanced in science and math?
I can answer that one. I have no problem with that. So a student who is course advanced math and science and will be taking, I'll give the example, a student next year may be taking pre-calc at the high school as well as biology. So if that's the case, a student would be up there for 4 periods for the day, because we have our math class that takes up 1 period, our bio class that takes up a second. However, there's a lab attached to bio. And so there would need to be filling out of that additional 3rd block, or 3rd period, I should say. Usually that is filled with with health and PE. And then also there can be a period for a language, if that all works. What we do is we have suggestions that we make to the high school, and then the high school helps us work with the classes that will be able to be taken depending on the kid's schedule. But my understanding from speaking with the other counselors and from what has been done in the past, that is what is traditionally done. If the counselors would like to add, please feel free.
All right, we're going to throw this one out there too for anyone. It's kind of 2 questions combined, but it's all on major choices. So one is asking, the question is that suggestions for students who aren't sure what a career path they want to pursue and unsure of what majors to choose. But then also the follow-up is, the question is, where are there examples in course selection that align with future college tracks? And, again, questions about the difficulty trying to assist their students in lining up, what majors would be most appropriate and line up with college track. So any counselor wants to take that one?
I can go ahead, Mr. Flynn, and then I will add if needed.
I'm not sure if I totally understand the question, but I do understand a portion of it at least. So the question about whether or not the career path they're choosing is something that they can look at as far as classes are concerned. Again, I would have the conversation with your school counselor. We use a program called Smart Futures now, which students will be doing in their career readiness classes, and that should give you an inclination of what you might want to do when you move forward. We used Navient the past 2 years, and students should have information about that as well, which they can use to make course choices for the following 2 years. But the best advice I would give is to have a conversation with your school counselor as to what you want to do, and we can point you in the right direction for the classes that you might want to take in order to do that.
If I could just add in, having been up at the high school but not been at this level, what I would really suggest, because it sounds like the question is asking like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, but most importantly in high school, I would really go to the North Penn High School website and take a look at the the document that they have, the course information guide. Because then you could take a look at, if I was thinking engineering, for example, I could look at all the different engineering courses in the engineering academy. If I was looking to go into something that is physical education related. It'll get into athletic training and some other programs that would relate to that. So I would go, I mean, that's a bigger question, more of a high school level question that is probably very provincial to only a handful of students who are looking that far ahead. So I think that would be a good place to start as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I would also add that North Penn High School, I went to North Penn High School. I graduated, I am an alumni from North Penn. And I will tell you, the courses that you are taking as your required courses will set you up for college. They will, okay? The one thing that I will add to echo what has already been said is that looking ahead at pursuing a college degree, if that is something your child would like to do, start looking at some of the colleges and what they are looking at as entrance requirements. I keep saying, students keep saying, well, what do you think, Mrs. Sinkinson? And I said, it's really not about what I think, it's about what course you are looking into. And so North Penn High School, I love that the suggestion of the program of studies. They really do have wonderful descriptions. They also, within their descriptions, describe prerequisites that need to happen, that prerequisite piece of what needs to happen before you take that specific class. And then also, tailoring to your child's interests, because if a child is thinking about majoring in some kind of art field, the art classes at the high school are phenomenal. And the health classes, if you're looking at a health and PE course or career, really start to kind of look at that whole big picture is really some of the best advice, and meeting with your school counselor. Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to add to that too. Yes, the program of studies is great. It's on the North Penn website under for families, and it has, like mentioned, all the prerequisites that you need. There's also child development, the engineering academy. I know, for example, for the engineering academy, the tech major might be a good one for them to pick if they're thinking about the engineering academy, which starts in 10th grade. There's also child development courses if your child's interested in being a teacher or that kind of route. That starts, the child development classes start in 10th grade, but maybe they may want to, for example, do FCS, Family Consumer Science, because they also touch on child development in that, not just the cooking, and sewing component, but they also look at child development. And through the lessons we're going to do, it is going to show them, hey, this may be something you're interested in. And then if they take it in 9th grade and they don't like it, like mentioned before, they can always change it. But it's just really, and there are some kids at this point, they have a good idea, some don't, and that's okay. But the purpose of the Smart Futures program is to get them thinking about it, and we'll figure it out with them, and we're here to help them figure that out. But I think if they have something that they really, just something that they're passionate about, or maybe something that they just really enjoy, the program of studies will be able to show you some ideas maybe down the line of what you want to pick as your classes.
Thank you. We have another question here is asking, does North Penn offer health science or pre-med courses, Health Science Academy, just like the Engineering Academy? So we'll go, Mr. Flynn.
There's not a Health Sciences Academy, but there are health sciences classes that you can attend at North Penn High School, and there's also health sciences at North Monco Technical Career Center that you can attend as well. And they at North Monco, they do up it as they go. So it's health sciences to begin with, and allied health as they get further along in their high school career.
And I was just looking at something similar with a student yesterday. Who was looking at that kind of pre-med track and, looking at anatomy courses. There are two components kind of to look at that. There's the health and physical education aspect. So when you're looking at, if you're talking about anatomy and things of that nature, that is going to be under your health course lists. All right. And then if you're looking at your science, we have so many science courses at the high school that are phenomenal, ranging all the way up to that AP level. So I would suggest going and looking at the course of study so you can start to see the middle school offerings and the middle school course of study for 9th grade, and then going and looking at that high school course of studies, because I think you'll be able to start to put together what that might look like and what category they're considered, because we have our majors that are required, and then there are major electives and minor electives that are kind of all over for students to choose. Math is really important. If you're thinking about pre-med, also think about that idea of math. What level math is your child in? What is the math requirement we know is so many years, but what level of math? Because math and science and pre-med and all of that go very hand in hand. So be aware of those types of things. And if you're not sure, please reach out to your school counselor, because we are very willing to help in answering those questions. And if we don't know the answer, we're going to find it for you.
Thank you. So, Ms. Wagner, I'm going to throw this question your way. And again, it's just asking, what does the day look like for a student who goes to the high school for JROTC? You know, just wondering where would they would start their day and where would they finish their day?
So earlier, and I know I had mentioned how the majors versus minor electives meet. I was generally speaking for the ones that you would take in the middle school building, but for those two classes that are at the high school, either Japanese or JROTC, those do meet every single day because they run on a period schedule as opposed to the block schedule in the middle school level. And this is all barring that everything stays the same for next year. But they would consistently have the same classes every single day for 2 periods up at the high school. And for some cases, it might be more, but generally those students, they would have 2 of their classes up at the high school and then return to the middle school around 9:30. This year, it's a little bit into our pen time.
Thank you. There is a question here asking about Latin 2 and will it be offered at the middle school? And if not, will it be offered only at the high school? I can answer that. At this point, we are planning on offering at all 3 middle schools. Obviously, a lot depends upon tallies and kids who register for the course. So at now, we are planning all 3 middle schools will have Latin 2. If they do not, and it moves to the high school, obviously the school will communicate to you and let you know where your day will start. But right now, all 3 middle schools are planning on having Latin 2 in their buildings next year. All right, so we do have obviously a few more minutes. I don't know if there are any other questions that families may have or anyone has about the course selection process or anything in particular. We ask that I do see a hand raised, but I'm unable to unmute. So if you do have a question, can you just type it in the Q&A box? We want to make sure that we do answer your question.
Did the last question get answered about, I just want to make sure there was one in there. Maybe Tara, I think you may have answered it. The student able to take biology in 9th grade. Did we already talk about, I'm sorry if I missed that because I can
Yeah, Tara answered that one.
Okay, good. I thought I wanted to make sure I kept up with that piece. Thanks.
Yes, this is being recorded. So a recording will be sent out, but when we do send it out, just so everyone is aware, we are doing the Rising 9th course selection first, and then in about 10 minutes, we have the Rising 8th grade course selection. So a link will be sent out, but it'll be a long link. So you guys really just only have to focus on the first maybe 35, 40 minutes of the link. And then if you do have a Rising 8th grader, that'll be the second part of the video. All right, we'll give if anyone else has any other questions.
While waiting, Sean, I'd just like to say, utilize your school counselor, guys. If you have questions or concerns or you're not sure what you might want to do, contact your school counselor, set up a meeting. We're more than happy to meet with you. Like Mrs. Sinkins said, that's why we're here. We love doing that. We'd love to help you pick the classes that you want to take for the future and point you in the right direction. So just utilize us.
Every time I'm going to say I'm going to throw Ms. Kay's way, I mute myself. So Ms. Kay, we're just going to throw one last question towards your direction. Its question is, can a student start a language as a sophomore if they go to tech school next year?
So a language is considered a major. So now at this point, and like I said, unless the schedule changes, but how it is now, the tech school would be the major. So language could not, but there are situations where you could apply for maybe course advancement in a language if you really wanted to get a language in over the summer, if you're worried about the language component. And it depends on the colleges. I know the rule of thumb is most colleges say 2 years of a high school language they require. Some do, some don't. And it's really important if your child knows, for example, some colleges are interested in, you may want to even go on their website and see. But the rule of thumb is 2 years of a language, but there are times where that's not required too.
Thank you. If there aren't any more questions, again, I'll give couple of seconds if somebody has another question they have in before we end. All right. Well, I do want to thank everyone for attending tonight. We do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with us about or hear from us about the course selection process. As the guidance counselors have said, if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of them. They are there to support you as well as support your son and daughter. So I know this can be a little confusing time, so they are a great resource to lean on as you're going through this process. I will say that this is going to end our session now. If your student is a rising ninth grader, if your student is a rising eighth grader, we will be reconvening in about 8 minutes or so. So if you do still want to stay on the call, you're more than welcome to. But at this time, we want to thank all the families. We appreciate you attending, and everyone have a great night.